Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunset Valley. So today we're doing Ye Old Tudor, which is one of those big, ugly, empty houses in the middle of Sunset Valley. So we didn't have to do it for any particular Sims. However, if you remember in the last episode, I accidentally changed the Langerak house into Barbie's house. I thought it was one of the empty ones, I couldn't remember. I don't really play the Langeraks when I play Sunset Valley, so I figured, okay, that's a big family, so we have to move them into a seriously big house. And then I saw this house, it's called Ye Old Tudor, like I said before, and it's just this gigantic log cabin. It's shaped like the letter L, like most other EA builds. So I cut off the back here, and I'm just like, you know what? This house is big enough. We're just gonna make it more like colonial style. You know, sometimes Little Simsy does it, where it's just like a rectangle with a few dormers and like a nice simple roof. Because I usually do things that are super complicated, and this shape actually isn't too bad. It's not very well done, but they had the right idea, I think. What they didn't have the right idea with was for the windows. I think I ended up changing a lot of the windows too, but it also had this like wood and green color scheme. It kind of reminds me of Strangerville. You know, in the Sims 4 Strangerville, like those default items that are in like the brown and the green, I don't really like it. So I end up changing it a little bit later. But yeah, like looking inside, it's just like one of those typical Sunset Valley houses. Like they got super excited with the color wheel and all sorts of textures, 80 shades of green in that place. And looking at the backyard too, I'm like, my goodness, why is there no pool here? A lot of backyards in Sunset Valley are actually pretty lazily done. And I'm really shocked at like the low number of things to do, because some of these lots are so big. So I always like to have at least like a chess table, something to eat, or at least some place to sit down, but this place didn't really have anything. So as you can see now, I'm kind of adding a bump out to the front of the house, because like I always say, when you're doing a square or a rectangle house, you don't really want it to be a perfect rectangle. You need something a little different. So I just kind of bumped out the middle one tile just to give it a little bit of dimension. And now it's time to start playing around with some of the wall textures, because I knew I did not want to do the wooden cabin thing. So I put on some brown siding, or I think it's purple, it's just some weird lighting. And then I start playing around with some bricks and stone, because like even at this point, like I didn't really know what I wanted to do. When it comes to renovations, I don't always have a clear idea as to my concept. When I'm building a house, I kind of know what I want to do, but when I'm renovating, sometimes you encounter certain shapes or certain details that just kind of push you in a certain direction. And for a colonial style house, you can have all sorts of styles. Like the wooden cabin thing is definitely viable. I just don't think they did it very well. And since it's not my style, I decided to use more like stones and brick. So it gives a little bit more of a castle vibe. I'm not sure. It takes me a while to do this, so I guess we'll get there in a bit. But as I struggle through that, I just want to talk about like this house specifically. So this is the last house in this specific neighborhood. This is the same neighborhood as Agnes Crumplebottom, the single mom's household. And there's another big empty house here too. So I thought, you know what? I just want to get this kind of mansion corner all over and done with. And I've been procrastinating on this house because I really didn't know what to do. Like certain things intimidate me more than others. And I don't really have a good eye for anything like rustic or cabiny. So I thought, how am I going to do this thing? And I figured, you know what? It's my save file. So I'm just going to change the style completely. It really just ended up turning into a shell challenge. You can still see me dragging like the creative style stuff all over. I know I say this all the time, and a lot of people complain about how tedious creative style is, but I need the freedom. Like I need to decide what windows I want, and I need to decide what colors they're going to be and like where they're going to go. I do like in The Sims 4 how you can like put windows exactly where you want it, but I think that it does hinder some people, because in The Sims 3, like you have to like stick to each tile. So like for like windows and doors, like they have to go on specific tiles. So if you end up with something that's unbalanced, you have like, there's a little bit of tricks you have to play to kind of make it look good again. Whereas I find in The Sims 4, like anyone who's building today in The Sims 4 ends up with these like very symmetrical houses, almost to the point where it's a little unsettling. Like I like symmetry and this build is symmetrical, but like, you know what I mean, when it's like, no matter what kind of thing you do, you can always kind of edge everything out to be perfectly center. And I always say I like things balanced, not symmetrical. So like centered with a twist. But of course, sometimes it works out that way too. Oh my God, I'm trying to work on like the front stairs and everything. I remember this took me a while too. It's always hard with EA builds because like they'll put stairs in front of doors and like in weird small porches. So it just gets a little bit more difficult to work with. Speaking of difficult to work with, there's this chimney thing. So I know you can delete the chimney, but I don't like to delete the chimney because it's not very realistic. So like I just try and hide the chimney or like box it in. That's kind of what I'm trying to do here. You can see I'm trying to get it all the way to the top here. And since we have an attic floor, the chimney goes quite high. So I don't know. I just wanted like to make it look as realistic as possible. And since I was doing the chimney, it kind of brought me down here into the living room. So I guess we're starting with the interior on this. Thank goodness I can stop talking about the shell. That took me a long time considering the fact I didn't really change the shape, my goodness. But coming into our little lounge living room area, they actually had a really nice green color for the couch. So you know it's good if Rakowski likes the green color. So I thought, you know what? They picked a good green green for once, so I'm gonna actually use it. I've said this before, especially when I change the outside a lot, I like to keep the inside as close as possible, but as I worked my way through this house, like look at this dining set. It's got like fall leaves and stuff on it, which I guess is fine, but it's not really for me. So I actually copied that green texture over onto the dining chairs. I figured it would give this house a little bit of much needed cohesion, but in terms of the floor plan, I think they did a really good job, especially with the downstairs. But since the bottom floor was so big, I had to smush everything over. You can't really see it yet, but I had to like drag the kitchen all the way into the front of the house, and it made everything a little bit clumped. So I'm just trying to figure that out too. And you know me, I like to have a bathroom on the first floor for sure. So right now I'm just like decorating with like end tables and plants and stuff, which I guess is fine. Okay, so here we are moving on to the kitchen. So the kitchen was originally in that L part that I cut off. So I just like smushed it all the way down. And then like the further I went through this house, the less and less I liked the style. Like I did not like this kitchen tile. I did not like this bathroom. But even though I didn't like it, I do think that they were going for something. It definitely looks like a dated house. I know a lot of Sunset Valley is ugly, and sometimes it's just ugly for the hell of it. And sometimes it's ugly because it's supposed to be retro. And like I love retro style. There's just certain eras that I do not agree with in terms of aesthetic. Like I love 60s mod, I love electric 80s, I love girl power 90s, but I do not like that 70s weird sludgy fall aesthetic thing. You know, that 70s style that has all those like weird patterns on, they're all in orange and green and brown. It's not really for me. And I was noticing, so like that leaf pattern on the dining chairs that I didn't really like, it's on the wallpaper here too. I think I changed that. I tried to use some of the wallpapers, but even when I try to use some of EA's wallpapers, I end up grabbing it and like pulling it over to where I want it. And then I change each swatch anyway, so it ends up being a completely different wallpaper, so I may as well just do my own. I guess we should talk a little bit about the Langeraks too. So you all know who Kaylynn Langerak is. She's from The Sims 2. She's sleeping with Dawn. She's sleeping with Daniel. She's a little hoochie, but you know what? We love that in The Sims. If The Sims 2 was like a monogamous game, like I would not have enjoyed it as much. Even though I like having the babies, I don't really care about the marriages. But yeah, this is kind of like her origin story. So like you might remember maybe 10 to 20 episodes ago, we did Bella Goth, and Bella Goth was a child, and so is Kaylynn. So it's kind of interesting how like the Sims lore does this full circle with The Sims 3. For those of you who don't know, The Sims 1 is kind of set in the middle of The Sims 2 and 3. So even though The Sims 3 was made the most recently of the three, it's the earliest in the timeline. So The Sims 3 is like Bella Goth as a child, The Sims 1 is her as a young adult, and Sims 2 is her as an older adult. So especially if you're kind of new to The Sims 3, when you play The Sims 3, you will notice like little sprinkles of Sims that you may recognize. Unfortunately, as we all know, The Sims 4 did not continue that tradition at all, but I'm not going to talk about it. So let's just talk about the attic, because we're in the attic now. So the Langerak household has like this distant aunt staying with them, and she's like eccentric and weird and stuff. So you know what? I just stuck her in the attic upstairs, because you know how I get lazy with attics and stuff, and I usually just put a couple boxes. I figured, you know what? She just plopped in as like a couch surfer. She can get a bed in the attic, and she can buy her own furniture. I play pre-made families a lot. I don't really play the Langeraks, but I do play pre-made families a lot. So I always have ideas as to like what I want to do and things that'll be fun. But I know for a lot of people, it's not really their style. So for these houses, I always kind of give you something to do. And for this house, the thing to do is to either get the aunt back out of the family or to furnish the attic for her, and then she can stay put. Her name is Zelda May, and I think that's just like an exquisite name. And somebody mentioned that Zelda May might actually like the Barbie house, so maybe I shouldn't have moved them out. I'm still glad I did, because again, it's not Zelda May's house, it's the Langerak's house. And if you remember, Kaylynn Langerak in The Sims 2 is actually the maid, so that's how she's sleeping with Daniel and sleeping with Dawn and everything. She comes to clean their house, and then she services them. Anyway, this clean behavior all started in childhood, because if you notice, Kaylynn Langerak is actually a neat sim. And although not her whole family is slobs, none of them are neat, I don't think, and so she has to clean up after all of them. So that's where she got her love, or hate, I guess, of cleaning. I always found that very interesting. So now you can see I'm just trying to play around with like lights and whatever, which means I'm probably almost done the interior. To be honest, this is one of those houses that I built like a few days ago, and I'm doing the voiceover later. So I'm kind of on the journey with you. I do remember kind of mixing up the top floor plan a little bit, because I just needed it to fit the family. This family has a set of parents, so we needed the master bedroom. There's a brother, and he's a teenager, so he needed his own bedroom. And then of course, Kaylynn needs her own bedroom. And I made hers all like white and clean and everything, and like very neat, as if she put everything away perfectly. And for everyone else, I just kind of like left everything kind of wherever it was, because of course it fits the story. And like, I don't mind getting messy a little bit. I kind of mentioned it earlier with the symmetry, but like, I don't like when Sims builds are too perfect. If you ever build a house in The Sims, it doesn't really matter which Sims game, but if you think it's a little bit too symmetrical or a little bit too grid-like and perfect, my advice is always just to add more things. Just think, what else might this sim have? And then throw it on the table, throw it in the corner, throw it in a closet, or make a closet. Sometimes that's fun too. I don't do that for every build, but in a lot of builds I like to. Oh God, we're coming onto the master bedroom here. Yeah, so like by the time we get to the end of this, I'm like, you know what? There's this blue shade that I've been using throughout the master bedroom and a little bit upstairs. It's a blue that I wouldn't necessarily normally use, but it ended up working out pretty good for the house. This is also like ye old Tudor, so even though I made the outside a little bit more contemporary, it's definitely giving exterior renovation of an old house. So it does make sense for the inside to have some old style and some old elements as well. Oh, I added a walk-in closet. I did this for Barbie's house too. I used to love doing walk-in closets. If anyone here is a Sex and the City fan, like I am in love with Carrie Bradshaw's apartment. I actually had an apartment similar to that with a walk-in closet that led to the bathroom. Anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. But long story short, I have like a fascination with like walk-in closets and stuff. I also like secret passages, but it hasn't really been appropriate to do a secret passage. Not in the last few builds anyway, but as you know, we still have a few big houses to do, like the Alto house and the Goth house. And I think that like I can probably sneak in one of those there. Oh God, I'm still decorating this thing. I am so sorry this took so long. I didn't even realize. Usually when I do speed builds, like I just kind of condense down the footage and speed it up, and it's about 10 minutes. Now we're going on 16:30 and I still have to do the outside, but don't worry, the outside is actually very beautiful. Again, like they had the right idea, like it's a good size, like they have a nice big patio here, it's in a nice stone, but they didn't add a pool, they didn't add much to do or anything. I also added a garage too, so the garage is gonna lead out to the backyard as well. And I was looking forward to doing a pool because like when I was younger, I used to put pools in too many houses. Like almost every house had a backyard pool. Even the little starter houses had a small one, kind of like Brandy Broke's trailer in The Sims 2, but that's not really realistic. But I think for this house, it's definitely realistic. And like I said, I haven't done one in a long time. I probably should have added more pools to Sunset Valley than I actually did. No goodness, outdoor lighting. This is like one of my favorite things. If you haven't tried this before, go into night mode and just try to put like little ground outdoor lights all around your house. You can point them at certain things. They can be floor floodlights. They can be on the wall. There's all sorts of different ways to do it, and I think it's really fun. Oh my goodness, speaking of fun, I can see myself doing the terrain paint, and you know what that means. That means it's time to jump into the build. So I'm gonna boot up the game and see you there. Let's go. And here we are at the gorgeous renovation of ye old Tudor. Oh God, look at Dethany just standing there. Yeah, so I know the speed build is fast, so let's just go over a few details. I reused some of the windows and I replaced some of the windows. I changed all of them to white. I figured let's just make the whole house monochromatic because they used some colorful landscaping and everything, so I kept that too. I thought, you know what, let's just keep the pink bushes and the purple ones. And in fact, I added the yellow ones here too. Going around, we have their garage over here. A lot of the houses in Sunset Valley either don't have garages or they have fake garages. So I like when I have space to add something a little bit more realistic. Like this house had this whole blank area here, and that does not always happen. And of course there was more room at the back, so I did a nice swimming pool and everything too. I figured Kaylynn can have a water slide because she works so hard keeping the house clean. Back here we have a barbecue and stuff, a little seating area, and then there's the back door into the garage too. So that way you can get into the house from the back, from the front. I like to add gates so that way you can lock them if you want, but I like the option of being able to scoot through. Okay, let's just jump inside. Oh my God, it looks like Dethany likes the pool too. Okay, let's just go in through the front door. Here we have the entry hall. I tried to keep some of the color scheme. You can see I kept some of the tile, and I think this was an original wallpaper too. Like I said, I like to keep as much of the original build as possible, but sometimes it's not really possible. So for this living room, I definitely went for the green all the way. I usually don't do green wallpaper and green furniture, but you know what? It kind of worked out. This green has a touch of teal, which you know I love, so I don't think it's overbearing, and I really like the texture for these. See, this is the thing I like about creative style. Like you can put like the specific kind of Victorian texture you want on the furniture. The Sims 4 could never. My goodness, this dining table, you know what? It's a little bit monotonous, but I do like how it gives like a nice clean and organized vibe because once again, Kaylynn is working nonstop to keep this place in check. There's a back hallway here that leads out to the front door here too, and into a bathroom. And into the bathroom, I just kept it as a half bathroom here. It's big enough where I could have fit a shower or something, but it wasn't giving the vibe of that, if you know what I mean. And there's also also a second door here that leads out this way. This household has 5 Sims in it, so I like to have lots of places to get around. Speaking of which, I just put a 2-seater little breakfast table here. I didn't want 2 dining tables in the house. And I also put some bar seating, so you can have like a nice formal dinner in the dining room, or one at a time, they can just eat here. Here is the kitchen. I kept the same tile, I just changed all the colors. Remember how I was talking about the wallpaper and everything? Well, I changed it from autumn leaves to flowers. To be honest, I prefer the flowers. Okay, let's just scooch around back and we'll go upstairs. As we go up to the second floor, I kind of left the landing pretty empty here. I just put a little bit of furniture, a couple plants, because again, there's 5 Sims trying to get around and there's a bunch of bedroom doors up here, so I didn't want anything to block it. Over here, we have the kids' room. So this is Parker's room, and I put everything green here too. I think green's his favorite color, so I thought, you know what? I already did green downstairs, so let's go for it. This is also a green I like again, like a touch of teal, but this one's a little bit darker. And I figured the teenager gets the computer. Okay, let's go into Kaylynn's room. Years ago, Mel B, Scary Spice, was on an episode of Cribs, and she had like a virgin bedroom, which was like all painted in white, and the bed was white, the carpet was white, and she used to say, you have to be thoroughly de-scrubbed to come in here. And I thought, you know what? Kaylynn probably has that level of hygiene, because she's so neat. Okay, let's go into the bathroom. Oh, I had to keep some of the things, so I changed a few of the colors. I might have softened the yellow of the toilet, but this was kind of the original style, and I thought, you know what? Not every bathroom has to be sleek and modern. I've been doing so much modern stuff lately, but let's go into the master bedroom and then into the ensuite. Here's the master bedroom in that shade of blue that I wasn't too comfortable with, but I really like how it turned out. It's definitely not my style, but I think it might work out for them. Now, I always put a floor-to-ceiling mirror in my closets. Now, if you notice, it's actually half as big as it looks. So here's the mirror here, but if you back up, it kind of looks bigger. Especially with that bookshelf, that like single bookshelf really doubles nicely. I'll have to remember that for later. Okay, let's just go into the master bath. The master bath I made a little bit nicer, but still kept the old-fashioned style, so I kept the same tiles here. I added a shower for convenience in the corner, but I did a little platform tub, which you know I love. And you see the weird colors here? Yep, EA picked those too. But it's just a bathroom, so who cares? And I thought, since I'm doing colors that I'm not normally comfortable with anyway, then maybe some EA colors will work. Going up into the attic, you can see it's like nothing here except for a single bed for Zelda May. Like I said earlier, if you want to furnish this as like her own little apartment, then that might be a totally fun idea, but in my mind, she's only here temporarily. If I were to play this family, I would probably marry off Zelda May to somebody. Maybe Thornton Wolf after Morgana leaves him or something dramatic. But it's The Sims, so you can do anything you want. Coming back outside, I'm very pleased the way this turned out because like I said, I was not comfortable doing this house. It was not my style. It ended up just being a big rectangle, and I find those hard. I like funky shapes because I find it's easier to fit the rooms that you need into a weird shape than it does into a square. But that's besides the point. And this neighborhood is now done. If we turn around, we have this house, which is already finished. We have the house behind us, which is done, and we have Agnes's house behind that tree. So this neighborhood is now complete. So let me know, what did you guys think? Have you ever played in this house before? I have never even seen the inside of this house until the other day. But like I've said before, I know a lot of you like playing in the big houses that EA gives you, so let me know what your experience is. And let me know, do you think this is a good fit for the Langeraks, or should I have put them somewhere else? But anyway, that about does it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe for some more Sims content. Honestly, I cannot believe it turned out as good as it did. This thing was so intimidating, like big, ugly brown cabin, oh god. But we made it a little bit more contemporary and a little bit more ritzy, I think. In fact, we made it a little bit more new money and a little less old money. And to be honest, I like both new money and old money. I just like money in general. Speaking of which, you can always sign up for my channel membership. I'm half kidding, but anyway, I've got another build to do, so I guess Destiny will get away from the window and we'll see you in the next one. Boom.